delighted to welcome you to our history tape of the history of the city of Grand Prairie, Texas, and those wonderful people that have caused it to happen. And this is our history tape number 215. And this is January the 25th, 1994, and we are very excited today to have a very special couple that have been very meaningful to the history making in a special part of Grand Prairie, Texas. Now, we are into the end of January and going into the month of February, and February is a very special month in that it is Black History Month. And always It Happened in Grand Prairie, our history series, we are very pleased each January, the later part of that month, and also into February to highlight those who are important to our history in Grand Prairie to celebrate Black History Month. And that is the case again this year as we begin this series with a very special couple that we have mentioned, and that is Freddie and Julia Duncan. Julia, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you.
Freddie, we're excited to have you on the set today, young man.
Thank you.
Yes. All right. Now, when we set the stage for this little history show, we usually ask you to give your genealogy and naming your parents and your brothers or sisters or anyone that you want to put on your history tape. So, Julia, we're going to ask you to look out into your camera first and start out by telling us about your parents. Name them and what they did for a living, where they lived, or anything you want to tell about your folks.
Well, my mother was Ruth Green, and we lived in Corsicana, Texas, and my father was Jimmy Stewart. And I have two sisters, Irma and Helen. And my grandfather was John Martin.
All right. Now, we have a little show and tell. I believe that you have some great pictures here. Why don't we just take that and see if our cameraman can clue in on this, and let's watch the monitor and be certain we don't have a glare on that. This is your grandfather?
My grandfather, John Martin.
John Martin. And where was he from?
He was from down in Navarro County.
All right, in Navarro County. And this is your mother?
This is my mother.
And give her name again.
Ruth Martin.
All right. And who is this down in the corner?
This is my dad, Jimmy Stewart.
Okay. And this is an unusual photograph. I want you to tell us how your mother, in her later years, got her picture combined with that of her father. What happened to this?
Well, her father died when she was young, and she always wanted a picture to be with her father. So she sent this picture off and had the two pictures casted together. That's how they, because everybody say they look the same age.
Yes, they do.
Young, so that's how that happened.
That is very exciting. All right. And we don't have any other pictures of your family just as yet because we're going to talk about some other things. But now, you mentioned your two sisters. Where are they at this time?
They're in Dallas, Texas.
They live in Dallas, Texas. Pretty close by to you where you can call them all of the time.
all the time.
All right. Do you want to give us their full names? Give us Irma's full name.
Irma Jean Green and Helen Williams.
All right. That is wonderful. No brothers?
No brothers.
Oh,
no brothers.
All right. Now, where did the real Julia grow up as a young child?
Down in Navarro County, in a little town, Powell, Texas.
And spell Powell.
Powell.
All right. And living in the little town of Powell, were there many folks that lived around there?
Oh, the population now is 111.
111. All right. And that's in Navarro County. Where did you go to school, Julia?
Well, I went to school there in that little town, too. Only when I got up to my senior year, we had to transfer to Kearns, Texas, because we did not have a high school in Powell.
All right. Kearns, Texas. Well, when you were going to elementary school and on up into the middle school, were there any favorite teachers that you had that were really, name drop, and let's put them on this
Miss
tape.
Nelson was my favorite teacher.
All
and you had to get her lesson, because if you didn't, you were in trouble.
Okay.
She was very good.
And she was the best of all?
Best of all.
All right. Do you have any other memories growing up as a young person down in the Powell area and going to school? What were your favorite subjects?
Math was my favorite subject.
All right.
Did real good in math.
All right. And then going into Kearns, Texas, to finish high school, how'd you get to school?
Well, I lived there. I had
All
to
right.
move down there because we didn't have transportation to go backwards and forwards, so I had to get a room down in Kern.
And you got a room and lived in Kearns and finished your education there.
Right.
That sounds very exciting. Well, back when you were going to school and living at home with your parents down at Powell, did you live out on a farm or did you live in the town or where?
We lived on a farm, the same place we planned on retiring to in about a month.
Now you're leaving Grand Prairie, Texas
Right.
and going down to Powell and retire there.
Right.
That sounds exciting. All right, living on a farm, do you have any memories of a young lady living on a farm? Do you have any chores to do?
Yes, and one of the things that we had to do, I said I'd never do again. That was picking cotton, so I didn't like to do that.
Didn't enjoy picking cotton.
No, I did not like picking cotton.
All right.
But we enjoyed farm life. We always had plenty of food to eat. We raised our own food, so at that time it didn't take much to make a child happy, so we were happy.
In the summertime, when you were out of school, did you do any canning or working or what?
Yes,
Tell
we
us
did a
what
lot
you
of
did.
canning. Had a lot of fruit trees, and we canned a lot of fruit, so that was one of the things we had to do.
So you had a really enjoyable childhood growing up
I really did.
down at Powell,
Enjoyed it.
Texas.
That's
That's
right.
great. All right, we're going to get back with you in a few minutes and talk a little bit more about Julia and what happens to her after the Powell and Kearns experience down in Navarro County. But now, let's get to Freddie. Freddie, you're such a special young man. When I first really got reacquainted with Freddie, I found him up at the Dalworth Recreation Center, and he and I got to talking over old times because he and I were really involved before Dalworth became an urban renewal project, and he and I are about the only 2 or 3 that are left in the Dalworth that remember the urban renewal and what the place looked like beforehand. But we want you to go back with us a little bit. Would you do that, Freddie, and tell us about your folks and name drop your parents, and then we'll talk about your brothers and sisters.
All right. Now, my people was raised in East Texas.
All right.
And we all grew up down there.
All right.
And, of course, we moved around, children did, and we raised up on the farm down there mostly.
That's
We down by
good.
the farm, and of course, you know how it was back in those days. We'd go out and pick cotton, chop cotton,
Yes.
gather corn and stuff like that to make a living.
All right.
And my mother and daddy was the parents of 12 children.
12 wonderful children. Oh, that is so great.
6 boys and 6 girls.
All right. Give me your mother's full name. Would you do that for me, Freddie?
Susan Mae Duncan. That's her name.
All right. And your father's name?
Fred Duncan, Reverend Fred Duncan.
The Reverend Fred Duncan. I knew we were going to get into something very exciting here in just a minute. And your daddy was a preacher.
He was a minister.
That
Yes,
is
he was.
wonderful. And tell us about tell us the town or the county you grew up in.
Well, I grew up in a little place they call Mount Alba,
All right.
and that's a few miles this side of Palestine. That was the county seat.
Oh, Palestine.
Palestine was the county
Oh, that is wonderful.
seat. That's Anderson County.
That's Anderson County, isn't it?
Anderson County.
Okay, we have all of that documented now. And growing up down around Anderson County and moving around, naturally you moved around where that preacher daddy of you took you to, right?
Well, yes.
All right.
Yes,
Would you
yes.
like to name drop any of your brothers or sisters to put them in the record? Anyone you want to mention?
Well, I have my oldest brother. His name is R.T.
All right.
And, of course, I'm the next.
All right.
And,
Second, number 2 son.
right.
All
And
right.
I've got them all here.
All right, let's hold that up and show a
Hold it.
picture of your mother and father, and
Right.
maybe our camera could come in on that. And that is a salute to the Reverend and Mrs. Fred Duncan in a very special commemorative book, and it also has all of the daughters listed and all of the sons listed. That's wonderful that you have that documented. And you want to continue telling us who all of the brothers and sisters are? Right here, you have your list,
Yeah,
and just go down the list for me.
All right, now I'm going to start with the daughters first.
All right.
Okay, my oldest sister is named Ruth Blackshear.
All right.
Now, and my next sister's named Essie Mae Burns.
All right.
My next sister's named Macy Abrams.
All right.
And Ivy Tony, they live in Grand Prairie.
Oh, great.
And Hattie Salone live in Fort Worth. And Birdie Hunt lives in East Texas.
All right.
Now I'm going to call the names of the brothers.
All right, all of your brothers.
Other than the ones I've already called.
Okay, that's
Okay, that's Floyd Duncan, and Wilma C. Duncan, and A.Z. Duncan, Bonnie Lee Duncan. That's the name.
Right. That's wonderful. And growing up down in that area in Anderson County, where did you go to school?
In Anderson County, Providence at Mount Alba.
In Providence
community.
In the Providence community.
Right.
I think that's exciting. Now, see, we're getting all of this good stuff, Julia, that probably even you didn't know all of these wonderful details. And you've long since lost your parents.
I've lost my father. My mother yet lives.
90 years old.
She
90 years old.
And she's 90.
90 years old.
And is she in Anderson County now?
Yeah, she's in Anderson County, and she'll go to fishing every day if you care.
She would go fishing
go
all of
fishing
the time.
every day if
Oh,
you
I
care.
think that is wonderful.
She loves to fish.
All right. And growing up as a young man, and your daddy was a preacher, and going to school, tell me something about going to school and your favorite teachers and being a preacher's son. Is there any special story you'd like to tell?
Well, I'd like to say this about my father. He was a minister, and I don't know, somehow or another, I just seemed to love church.
Yes.
And when he would go to preach, I'd follow him.
That's great.
And a lot of times I get a chance to take up the offering and all that. And that, I felt good about that.
Oh, yes.
Yes, I felt good about that. And of course, he loved to carry me with him because it seemed like I loved to go with him.
Yes.
And I loved to drive the car, anyway. So I'd get to drive the car and all
Yes.
that. So we had a nice time.
You got to know your father real well, didn't
Got
you?
to know my father real well, real well. In fact, he would call me boss. Because
How wonderful.
he would call me boss.
Yeah, I imagine you sort of bossed him around. You had to drive the car
that's what it was.
and do all of these good
I
things.
got to do all these things with him.
Well, when you went to school, was there any special teacher or person that really helped you or really was a special friend to you?
Yes. Her name was Miss Williams. I don't know her first name, but Miss Williams was her last name. Now, she was really a nice teacher. And I say that because she was strict on us. I mean, we had to get our lesson.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, we had to get it. We had to study. We had to carry our books home with us and study them. Now, I think like a lot of times now children don't carry the books home, but then we had to carry our books home with us.
All right. Yeah. Well, now, since your father was a minister, did you have any chores to do around the house?
Oh, yeah, we had chores to do, and he didn't ask us but once to do them.
Oh, I see.
And that's it. And he didn't ask us probably no more because we knew what would happen if we didn't do them. See, so he'd have to tell us, "Y'all boys do this." That was our picture. We knew to do it.
All right.
So we'd just go right on and do it.
As my granny would say, you really minded him, didn't you?
Right. We minded him.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yes, we really minded it.
And growing up as a young man, did you have any special friends, any special playmates that you remember in your early days?
Yes, I had several friends, several playmates and schoolmates, I guess you might would call them. And I had a cousin of mine, his name was Mims, Johnny Lee Mims.
All right.
And I had a friend of mine was named Frank Simpson. Now, we was really close together.
Yes.
And I had another friend was named Frank Lewis. Now, we came up together and went to school together. We was really close together.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah, we were really close together.
All right. Now, let's get back to Julia. Julia, what brought you to Grand Prairie, Texas, and what year?
Well, I came to Grand Prairie, Texas, and after I finished high school in 1949,
All right.
I came to Dallas.
All right. And coming to Dallas in 1949, that was after World War II. And what brought you to Dallas?
Well, my aunt lived here in Dallas, and I wanted to go to beauty school.
All right.
So after finishing beauty school, I started working in the shop, and then later years I wanted to go back to school. So I started going back to school out at Mountain View.
All right.
And I attended 2 semesters at Mountain View.
All right, Mountain View. And after you finished your cosmetology school and had worked some, did you decide that that wasn't exactly what you wanted to do, and that's the reason you wanted to go to Mountain View, or did you just want to pursue something else?
I love to read, and I was just always interested in math, so I decided to go back and take some courses. So I went back to take some courses in math.
In math, was there anything?
Introduction to business is what I was taking
Oh,
up.
that's great. All right. Thinking maybe you were going into the business field maybe one day?
Well, someday I thought I would, and at least it would just expand my knowledge on it for my own purpose.
All right.
Then I attended the classes in tax preparation. I was just always eager to be doing something, learning something, doing things.
And all of this time you were living in Dallas with one of your aunties, and then what happened?
Well, I had got married in 50. I married, and then we came to Grand Prairie in 51.
All right.
But I was going backwards and forward to beauty school over there.
All right. In 1951, you came to Grand Prairie, Texas. And did you settle in Dalworth proper?
We sure did.
All
We
right.
had to move because the project over there, what they in such a hassle with now, they had to have our home, so we had to sell and move out here. Some of the people went to Irving, what they call Bear Creek, and
Yes.
some settled over here in Grand Prairie.
In Grand Prairie at the Dalworth community,
Right.
which is really the main street of Dalworth is Sherman Street.
Right.
Oh, yes, that is wonderful. All right, and coming to Grand Prairie, Texas, all the way from East Texas to Dallas and then out to a small town like Grand Prairie, what was your impression of Dalworth and Grand Prairie, Texas at that time?
Well, it wasn't too good because we had bad streets, outdoor toilets, and it was just kind of like living in the backwoods again and going backwards.
Yes.
So when we first came, the street I lived on was San Antonio, where we live now, and we didn't even have paved streets.
That's
you had
right.
to walk out in the mud.
Some gravel. And then
So-
the gravel, the ruts got pretty deep when it rained a lot.
Oh,
didn't
you
they?
couldn't get out in the car.
Oh, I remember going down there during those times. Yes, you're absolutely correct.
I like the commercial. We've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go.
That is true. All right. Now we're going. We've gotten you to Dalworth, and we've gotten you in the 1951-52 before urban renewal. We're going to leave you hanging there because we've got to get Freddie now all the way up from down in his area and see what brought him to the Dallas area. Freddie, you want to tell us what brought you this way?
Yes, what brought me this way were I was looking for a job.
All right.
And I had farmed and farmed and farmed, and the fact that was kind of slow.
That is
So
kind of
it
slow.
was slow. So I came to Grand Prairie in 1952, I believe it was.
1952.
And I worked at PX over here to Naval Base, and then I went to work for the federal government
All right.
over there, and then that's why I retired. But before I get to that, I went to 2 farms.
To 2 farms,
Two-
okay.
I was hired out to 2 farms, and neither one of them would do me any good too much. And like I just couldn't make it. After I came out of service, I got married, and I had to take care of my family.
All right.
So then I came on to Grand Prairie, and I worked at the Navy base for quite a while, with civil service.
All right.
Then I went to federal government in Fort Worth.
In Fort Worth.
Fort Worth, and I retired in Fort Worth.
Now, you gave us a clue that I didn't know about. You said you were in the service
Oh, yes.
during the war. Tell us what part of the service you were in. And
Well, I was
where-
in the Army.
You were in the Army.
Army,
And where did that take you?
that army taking me to New Orleans, and from New Orleans to Okinawa.
To Okinawa.
That's where it took me to.
Oh, you've been almost around the world.
Yeah. I grew up as in a large family, and I wanted to help my family. So I'll just say this year, before I went in service, I first joined the 3C camp.
All right,
I don't know if you
CCCs.
remember that, but
yes, I do.
But I remember I joined the CC camp. I was in there for about 11 months.
That's good.
Then after I came out of there, then I was inducted in service.
And then went to Okinawa. And when you got out of the service and came back, that's when you came to this area.
That's when after I farmed a while, and I went to GI school. I went to agriculture school, and I went to mechanic school. And after that, then I came to Grand Prairie.
That's good. All right. Working at the PX at the Navy, that was an excitement for Navy Dallas, I'm sure.
Yes, but it was called the Air Force Base.
Yes.
For,
the old Hensley Field.
Hensley Field.
Yes, it was.
I'm glad to talk to somebody as old as I am.
That's it. Way to go, Freddie.
But that's what it was, Hensley Field.
Yes, it was Hensley Field.
So I worked there for about 5 years at the PX.
All right.
Only making about 79 cents an hour. And that,
yeah, but that was a good living then, wasn't it?
Well, then I could make it.
You bet.
And then I went from there to the mess hall at the Air Force Base there.
Yes.
As civil service.
All right.
And then I worked there for about 6 years, and I went on to Fort Worth, the Bureau of Prison Center over there.
All right, and where did you work in Fort Worth for the federal government?
At Bureau of Prison Center over there.
Oh, that is wonderful.
Yeah, that's where I worked there.
And you retired in what year?
And I retired in 58.
All right, now I think we have a picture of you in retirement right over here. And you know what? We need to get back pretty soon and show this picture after we show your retirement picture. Would you hold that up about where your microphone's located there? Yeah, about right in there. Yeah. And that's retiring from over in Fort Worth, Texas.
Over in Fort Worth,
Came back to Grand Prairie permanently then.
Right.
Until we get ready to go to the farm.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Freddie, let's show this picture and tell us that that's your parents. We didn't get a picture of them, did we?
Yeah. Now, this is my mother and myself.
Oh, yes.
See. Now, it takes me a long time to get this picture because she don't believe in taking pictures.
Oh, she doesn't?
But I finally got one.
Oh,
so
right.
this is my mother.
That is a very special archive for you then, isn't it? And the fact that she'll go fishing at the drop of a hat, I know that pleases you, doesn't it?
That's all right with me.
Oh, that is great. All right, now let's get back to Julia and talk just a little bit about church. Oh, you're into your church. Even though he was a preacher's son, this Julia's turned into church. And let's show and tell a little bit something about your church, starting out with what your church looked like when it first began, and give us a little bit of a history and the name of your church, Julia.
Our name of the church is Sunset Baptist Church. And originally we had a duplex moved in, and so it's turned around now, but this was the front of the church. It had 2 doors, the duplex, so we'd go in both doors.
All right.
And then later on, when we built another church, they turned it around and made a kitchen out of it.
Okay. Now, the second version of this, now, when you're updating it,
This is the old church turned around, and we made a kitchen out of here, and this is the second church that we built.
Yes, and he's getting a real good shot of that. Isn't that wonderful? All right, and
before I go to the new church, this was the first pastor. We've only had 2 pastors. We had the Reverend M.C. Magruder, and now his grandson is our minister.
And this is the senior, Mr. Magruder, right?
That's
the Reverend Magruder.
Mm-hmm.
All right. All right, now show us what your church building looks like today.
This is what our church building looks like now.
That is excellent. And tell us the street and where you can be found.
The church is located on Manning Road, on the corner of Manning Road and Spike Street.
All right, and give us the grandson Magruder's full name that you're going to show us his picture in a minute.
Matthew C. Magruder.
All right, let's hold that up and show and tell.
And this is he and his wife.
Yes. Well, the reason that I know that you're so involved in your church you've been the chairman of a very special prayer breakfast in a group that they've had up there. Tell us about your prayer breakfast group, because I'd like for everyone to know about that.
Well, we started this little group to try to help our community, and the name of it is a Dalworth Improvement Committee. And we have had prayer breakfasts, and Miss Jackson and her husband have been guests at our prayer breakfasts, and we've been very successful in the last 2 prayer breakfasts that we've had. We're very proud of, and we hope that when we leave that someone else will continue and keep this up.
Well,
and try to improve.
you've left that charge, haven't you?
Well, we're hoping someone will pick the charge up and continue. We need it very badly in our community to try to improve our community.
All right. Also, tell us about your political career.
And I'm also the precinct chairman of 4479 in Dalworth.
All right. And what's happened to 4479 just recently?
Well, recently I was informed by Mrs. Ida Adams that our precinct had been split up, and I was supposed to get back with her today to get some additional information on this. Plus, she had called me and asked me to work early voting. So I told her that if we hadn't moved, and she said, even if you have, you can still come and work. So she still wants me to work the early voting.
Oh, that is.
So I'll get some more information on what has happened to us out there.
All right. I'm going to put you on hold just a minute, and I got to get back with Freddie. Now, Freddie, all of this time that you've lived in Dalworth, and I know you go to Sunset Baptist also, because I know that you go as a team. Is there anything you'd like to tell us about some of your other outreach in Dalworth community?
Well, I was kind of in the same situation, subject that she was in, the Dalworth Improvement Committee. I'm in that also.
I saw you as an assistant at the prayer breakfast, so
Yes.
I know they work you pretty hard.
Yes, I was there at the prayer breakfast, and I also was I'm a member, as you said, Sunset Baptist Church.
All right.
And I can tell you a few things about the church. I've been there for 40 years, and I know that I've come a long ways there.
Yes.
And I was the chairman of a deacon board in the 1952 when I went there. They made me chairman of a deacon board there.
How wonderful.
So I just, I stayed on there, and though I'm not the chairman of the deacon board now because someone has replaced me, but I still stay with my church.
That's wonderful.
I didn't believe in running from church to church, because when you start doing that, then Satan will keep you running. So I just decided I wasn't going to run.
You bet.
And so I've been there ever since.
All right. I believe you have a picture, Julia, we need to show and tell.
We've also been involved in the NAACP.
All right.
And this was one of the banquets. I don't know whether you can see this very good, but this was at the banquet, the last banquet they had over at the Pavilion.
Yes.
There by the hospital. And this is a senior citizen table. And these all are members of our church. And this man right here is 94 years old, Edwin Ware.
That's wonderful. All right, we have half a minute, and our tape is almost at an end. Tell us about moving to the farm, where it is. Just give us the address, and that we can come and see you sometime, Julia and Freddie Duncan.
The address is on Glover Street, off of Farm Road 633, after you exit off Highway 31. And it's near that Richland Chambers Lake. We can sit on the back porch and just look at the lake. And we are going to invite you when we have a little I'm going to invite the church and all of our friends from up here, and we're going to prepare a big dinner and just have a good time out in the country.
I'm so proud of you two. Thank you for coming and sharing your lives with us today.
We enjoyed it so much.
It's just been
inviting
wonderful.
us.
And this is Ruthie Jackson reminding you that history is as we live and do.